Hi, today we're going to talk about a relatively new function in PicToWeave called thread alias names. And thread alias names allows us to alter the way that PicToWeave displays various thread colors and in fact also their names. So to give you an indication on when you might use something like this, you can see pictured on this weave we've got several colors that are relatively close to each other. You might find in doing a fish you need to do various shades of a particular color. Now that presents a difficulty when we go to do our left list. If I bring up the left list and scroll down to where those purple areas are, you can see it's quite difficult to see on the screen which color is which, and when you print it, it becomes even worse. Likewise, when we do our layer list, I'll quickly bring that up. You can see there's not a lot of difference between the two. So to give you an indication on how this might be used, I would normally keep 2 copies of the file, save one as an original, and then save a second one as a modified one, just so if we make a bit of a mess of anything, we can go back to our original. So we'll assume that we've saved our modified copy. What we need to do now is take one of these colors here and convert it to a completely different color so it stands out easily on the paper. So I'll select the 1832, I'll go edit exchange colors, and we'll make it something nice and bright. How about a neon green? Okay, so now you can see if I bring up my left list, it's really easy to distinguish between the mauve and the purple because now in fact it's showing as green. But that might become a bit confusing when we do our layer list. So what we can do now is add an alias. So first of all we need to make sure that the aliases are turned on. So we'll go to layer list settings, and you can see here use thread alias names is checked. So now we can go to Tools, Thread Alias Names, and you can see that all of these are all identical. There's no aliases been associated. If we select the last one there, the 552 neon green, and go to Edit, I can now change it to MP 1832 mauve. Apply that, save and close. So now what you'll notice, if I run the mouse over the green, you can see in the area here where it displays the cell reference and the color, it's now showing as MP 832 mauve. It should be 1832, so we'll just correct that quickly. Okay, so now it's showing 1832 mauve and 1831 is still showing as it is. So now if I do my left list, it shows as green. It's easy to pick up, and every time I see that green I need to pick up an 1832 mauve color. When I do my layer list, however, it substitutes the name with the alias. So even though it prints green, it's saying to put an 1832 mauve thread in that part of the jig. That's so that you make sure you've got all the right thread colors placed in there. Now we can take it one step further. Things like these Madeira threads, the names don't really mean a lot, so we can actually go in and create aliases for all of those. For instance, we don't need that whole name, we can just say black. Likewise, change this to orange. Yellow and red. Now you can do as many or as few as you like. It all comes down to what you find easiest. So now you'll find when I do my layer list, it's a lot easier to understand what it is that we're looking at. You can see we've still got one there, which we didn't, and we'll call that purple. Now we'll go back again. So it's much easier to lay all your threads in the jig. Now you'll notice something else that is another relatively new function. You can alter the way that you lay out the threads. So we've got two different settings here. We can go, the traditional one was to place the thread that was most used on the bottom. Some people find it easier to sort them by the thread that you're going to use first. So if we select that and then we go generate our layer list, if we look at this area around here, you can see that the first thread we come to is the black thread. Now the layout that you do here into your jigs goes from left to right. You do all of the ones in the leftmost column, then the second column, then the third column, and so on in turn. So if you can see, the black thread here is going to be the last one placed in the jig, therefore it'll be on the top when you come to it. Likewise, the red will be the next one down, the orange here will be the next one down, and so on. So you might find that just a bit easier in keeping your thread straight and so forth if you use that option over the traditional one, which was whichever thread had the most colours got put on the bottom. And if I change that back and just do it again, you'll see that the black will be the first one laid down rather than the last one laid down. So, and you can see the numbers get less and less and less in a pyramid fashion. So it's up to you which way you go. I'm quite liking the new setting I've first used. Now you'll see in our notes that the aliases have been added in, and it's a good idea to put a little note in there to say that some thread colors have been changed, just to make it easier for people to understand what's been going on, because they might think that that's the color you originally intended. So by looking at the notes here, we can see that any instances of 552 should be replaced with 1832 mauve. Now, because there's no guarantee that the way I set things up and the alias names I give things will be the same as the way you give things, there has to be a way of checking if there's any sort of conflict, because if you have two different alias names, you might get inconsistent results, or you might end up using a color that the author didn't mean. So obviously I didn't mean for this weave to have that green in it, so these notes are packaged with any weave that I might send off, so whoever brings it in will know straight away that there's alias names in place and that they need to take account of them. So just to show you that that is the case, if I open that file again, once it brings in the actual weave, checks all the colors and so forth, it comes up and gives a little dialogue that says that there are aliases in place and that I should make sure that they're okay. So all we then do is go into edit thread alias names, and you can see that all of these are as they should be. Okay, so we would have taken note of the notes of what the various alias names are, printed them out, checked that these are all the same. Now if there are any conflicts, And just to demonstrate, I'll make sure that there's some conflicts. Just by quickly overriding that file. If I now go edit thread alias names, you can see that there's a different dialog that says they're conflicting names, and the ones that are conflicting have been marked with an asterisk. So if I open it up now, you can see a whole bunch of alias names here with asterisks beside them. So we have to sort through what is in fact the correct one to use. So all we do is we have a look at this one. We've got FHN001, and further up with the same thing. The only difference is this one's called FH black and this is FHN001 black, so that's no big deal. I'll just delete this alias altogether. Likewise here we've got an orange. Further up 221 is FHN orange. Very similar but not the same, so we'll delete that. This dialog is saying that there's a reference in the notes, and it may or may not delete it as circumstances dictate. Likewise here we've got lemon yellow. Up here it's just called 6778 yellow or lemon yellow. Now I can delete either one. I'll delete the top one here just to show you something in a minute. Red and candy apple, delete this one. Now this one here, you can see that the 552 here is mapped to a light blue, whereas up here it's mapped to 1832 mauve. So we need to decide which of those we need, and as we looked earlier it was the mauve that we wanted, so we'll get rid of the one that's mapped to blue. So that's, as I said, different people may use the same thing and select a different color. Now this one here, all we need to do now, as you can see it's still got the asterisks in it, remove those, hit apply, save and close. Now if I hold my mouse over there, you can see it's saying 1832 mauve. Here's our left list. Shows the green color. We would use mauve anytime we found that in the left list. And here's our layer list with all our abbreviated names and our notes placed at the bottom so that we know what's going on. You can see the color used in the weave here is neon green, however it's been mapped down here to mauve. I hope you find this a useful little tool, and I look forward to seeing some of your work.